Welcome to my presentation. Okay. My name is Thaddeus Tunodiambo. I'll be facilitating you through this area of learning, and our topic is going to be the cognitive domain of learning. Feel welcome. First of all, for us is to know what is the domain of learning. Domain of learning or domains of learning are a series of learning objectives created in 1956 by an educational psychologist called Dr. Benjamin Bloom. The domains of learning are three, so they involve three categories of education, and each one requires a different instruction style to achieve its intended outcome. The three domains of learning are the cognitive domain that has to do with thinking or knowledge, the affective domain that has to do with social, emotional, or feeling aspects. They are generally seen as aspects of attitudes. The psychomotor or behavioral domain are seen generally as physical or kinesthetic aspects of learning, and they generally result into what we call the skills. So we are simply asking ourselves, what do you know? Secondly, how do you feel about it? What is your attitude about it? And number three, what is your behavior or what can you do? Trainers generally refer to these three domains of learning as knowledge, skills, and attitude, simplified as KSA. The cognitive learning domain involves intellect, the understanding of information, and how that develops through application on a scale that increases from basic recall to complex evaluation and creation. As we saw there, in a nutshell, the cognitive domain has much more to do with your thinking or the intellect, the use of the brain, in terms of getting new information, synthesizing the information, and applying it, probably to solve a life problem. Now, we'll do well if we also talk a little bit about the other two domains, just as in to shed more light by defining them. The affective learning domain involves our emotion toward learning and how that develops as we progress from a low order process like listening to a higher order process like resolving an issue. So that has to do with the attitudes. And the psychomotor learning domain involves our physicality and how that develops from basic motor skills to intricate performance, manipulation, performance activities, etc. Levels of the cognitive domain. So there are generally about 6 levels of the cognitive domain according to Bloom's taxonomy. That is knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Talk about those 6 one by one in a nutshell. So we start with the knowledge. Knowledge has to do with recall or recalling of data or information. It is the lowest level of cognitive domain. Examples are like reciting a policy, reciting a poem, quoting prices from memory to a customer, knowing of safety rules, they just involve recalling from memory. The words used here include define, describe, identify, know, label, list, match, name, outline, recall, recognize, reproduce, select, state. Second level of the cognitive domain is comprehension. Comprehension is understanding the meaning, translation, interpretation, and interpretation of instructions and problems. That is being able to state a problem in your own words, not simply just recalling it from memory. Examples is like rewriting the principle of test writing, explaining in one's own words the step of performing a complex task, translating an equation into a computer spreadsheet. Keywords: comprehend, convert, defend, distinguish, estimate, explain, extend, generalize, give examples, infer, interpret, paraphrase, predict, rewrite, summarize, translate. The third level of the cognitive domain is application. Application is the use of concept in a new situation or unprompted use of an abstraction. Applies what was learned in the classroom into novel situations in the workplace. Those are new situations that emerge. They are not things that you're not used to, but you now got to put the principles into use in order to come up with a solution. Examples: use a manual to calculate an employee's vacation time. Apply laws of statistics to evaluate the reliability of a written test. Keywords: apply, change, compute, construct, demonstrate, discover, manipulate, modify, operate, predict, prepare, produce, relate, show, solve, use. The next level of the cognitive domain is analysis. Separates material or concepts into component parts so that its organizational structure may be understood and distinguishes between facts and inferences. So this is simply just to separate. Examples include troubleshooting a piece of equipment by using logical deduction. That is starting from the equipment and breaking it down into smaller parts to be able to study the units, recognize logical fallacies in reasoning, gather information from a department and select the required task for training. Keywords: analyze, break down, compare, contrast, diagrams or use diagrams, deconstruct, differentiate, discriminate, distinguish, identify, illustrate, infer, outline, relate, select, separate. Number 5 is synthesis. Builds a structure or pattern from diverse elements. Put parts together to form a whole with emphasis on creating a new meaning or structure. Examples: write a company operation or process manual, design a machine to perform specific tasks. This integrates training from several sources to solve a problem, revises and processes to improve the outcome. Keywords: categorize, combine, compile, compose, create, devise, design, explain, generate, modify, organize, plan, rearrange, reconstruct, relate, reorganize, revise, rewrite, summarize, tell, write. Level of the cognitive domain is evaluation. Evaluation is to make judgments about the value of ideas or materials. That has to do with the worth. Examples: select the most effective solution, hire the most qualified candidate, explain and justify a new budget. Keywords: appraise, compare, conclude, contrast, criticize, critique, defend, describe, discriminate, evaluate, explain, interpret, justify, relate, summarize, support.